Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's your boy HP, and you're listening to the Unsportsmanlike Conduct podcast, a podcast for the average Joe that covers football, my beloved New York Giants, some baseball and basketball from time to time, and any other current events impacting our sports world. Before I get started with the agenda today, everyone, please follow me on Instagram. That's _unsportsmanlike_conduct. I'm also on Twitter, so please follow me on Twitter. That's _unsportsman. And lastly, please subscribe to my YouTube page. As you're listening to this episode, subscribe, like, and comment on this episode. So the agenda for today, boy, did Pat Shurmur come out earlier this week and shock New York Giants fans and the New York Giants media by saying that the quarterback competition is wide open and that Daniel Jones can very well be our week one starter in this year's NFL season. Also, another good note, another surprising note, a happy note for New York Giants fans and that New York Giants offense. Rookie wide receiver out of Auburn, Darius Slatyon, is impressing New York Giants coaches and OTAs and is getting first-team reps. Mind you, he's a fifth-round pick, so that's definitely something to be happy about and look out for. I'm going to cover it all on today's episode, episode 11 of Unsportsmanlike Conduct. And then lastly, I'm going to cover the big blockbuster NBA trade. Anthony Davis, all-star power forward center, gets traded to the Los Angeles Lakers. I'm going to give you guys my thoughts and opinions on that trade at the end of this episode. Let's get this show started. So Pat Shurmur came out earlier this week talking about how the quarterback competition is very wide open. Essentially said that this is Eli Manning's job. We all know that Eli Manning is the starting quarterback. He has been obviously for over a decade. He's our beloved Eli Manning, the two-time Super Bowl MVP, two-time Super Bowl champion. And also, as everyone knows, those two Super Bowls came against very dominant New England Patriot teams. This is the first time in a actually probably since Eli Manning's career with the New York Giants, that there is another quarterback that's threatening the starting job this coming season. And you know what? I think Daniel Jones deserved it because ever since Daniel Jones entered into rookie camp, there's been nothing but good things being said about him. Remember, several weeks ago, Mike Shula came out saying he thinks Daniel Jones has all the tools to start week one. He had a good rookie camp, he had a good mini camp, and he's killing in OTAs right now. And I think that's why Pat Shurmur came out, and you know, when they asked him the question, he was honest. He was honest and said, look, while this may be Eli Manning's team, this may be Eli Manning's job, don't forget that Daniel Jones is also having a great offseason. He's having great training camp. Daniel Jones can very well be the starting quarterback of this year. And you know what? That, to me, is such great news. Look, I love Eli Manning so much, man. This is the first quarterback I've ever watched as a New York Giants fan. You know, I'm 25 years old, so Eli Manning is the first quarterback that I've seen sort of like as I, matured as a New York Giants fan over the last decade or so. So I love Eli Manning, but you know what? I'm tired of Eli Manning. We need a new face. We need some new blood in there. And you know what? Look, we're not going to win. We may not make it to the playoffs. We most likely won't make it to the playoffs, right? I mean, I don't think Super Bowl is necessarily something that is a goal for us right now because we're sort of in the combination of a rebuild and trying to remain competitive at the same time. So if you think that Daniel Jones has the tools and has the ability and is showcasing and is earning it, which is a very key point. If he's earning it in OTAs and minicamp and all these trainings, you got to give Daniel Jones the starting job in week one. You have to control the team. Pat Shurmur and Dave Gettleman need to take over this team. I understand that at the end of the day, these calls sort of get manipulated by the owner, John Mara, but at the end of the day, Gettleman has to step in and say, look, this is the guy we drafted. We think he's ready. And then if Daniel Jones struggles, what do we have to lose? Bench Daniel Jones, let Eli come in, and then Daniel Jones can learn again. Daniel Jones can sort of figure out what were the tools that he needs to work on. I mean, I don't see what the downside is of starting Daniel Jones right away. We can start Daniel Jones, figure out what he needs to work on, and then have Eli Manning come in place for Daniel Jones if, in fact, Daniel Jones ends up not being ready to play in an NFL offense. But why not figure out right away what the issue is with our 6th overall pick? I think it's just very scary and very risky to wait a whole year to figure out if Daniel Jones can play in the NFL. But now you're seeing flashes of him during, OTAs. And granted, I get it. OTAs, no one's tackling. People don't got the pads on. But you know what? That's competitive ball. It is competitive-ass practices. People are playing hard. People are trying to make the roster. So when a player plays well during OTAs, that's something that you should ride home with. You should definitely hang on to that because those players are trying to fight for a roster spot. And the reason why I'm pro Daniel Jones, because ever since camps have started, there have been two stories that have been told between Daniel Jones and Eli Manning. Daniel Jones has had a great practice, threw a touchdown, drove the ball down the field, had an amazing throws down the sideline. That was always one story. Then the other story was Eli Manning goes 1 for 7, throws an interception. Daniel Jones is outplaying Eli Manning. I mean, that's been the story so far ever since camp has started, ever since practices have started. Now, the interesting thing to look out for is when training camp starts and they throw on those pads and then these guys are actually tackling, because that's when it gets a little bit more tough, a little bit more intimidating. But I don't think that, in terms of his performance, in terms of the way he's throwing the football, I don't think that's going to change when the pad comes on, because it's not like he's never played football before. He's played ball before. So I don't think that's necessarily going to change. I honestly, what do we get with starting Eli Manning this year? In order for our organization to move forward and figure out whether we have our future quarterback, to find out if Daniel Jones is the future of our team, how does starting Eli Manning this year allow us to do that? If we start Daniel Jones this year, this is what will happen. Either Daniel Jones plays well, which if we look at almost the last 5 years or so, rookie quarterbacks over the last couple of years have came in and have done really well immediately for their teams. And some of these teams haven't had complete offensive lines, complete wide receiver weapons, or as good of running backs like Saquon Barkley. I think right now we've sort of rebuilt this team close enough for Daniel Jones to come in and be pretty successful. Now, I know I was very critical of this Daniel Jones pick, but you know what? I'm becoming a fan because he's wowing people in camp, in these practices. And I'm looking at this tape that the New York Giants are posting on Twitter. He looks great, man. The way the ball comes out of his hands, it looks really, really good. And he's a scrambler. I mean, Pat Shurmur can be so creative with Daniel Jones, because Daniel Jones can scramble with the football. I think you got to start Daniel Jones, because the New York Giants need to figure out if Daniel Jones can do this or not. Because you know what? If maybe Daniel Jones isn't ready for the NFL. Maybe we need a plan B. But if we wait a whole year to find that out, that sets this franchise back another couple of years. Then who cares about the fact that we've had Saquon Barkley, or that we re-signed Sterling Shepard, or that Evan Ingram may possibly be a top 5 tight end in the league, or that we have this young core, this great core of cornerbacks and safeties. All of that doesn't matter. Even this completion of the offensive line that Dave Gettleman rebuilt, the completion of this linebacking group that Dave Gettleman rebuilt, none of that matters if you don't have a quarterback under center that can lead this team to victories. All of that talent gets wasted. So why not find out right now whether we have an answer to Eli Manning, whether we have a successor to Eli Manning? Take advantage of that now, especially because you are seeing signs that Daniel Jones can be successful if given the opportunity. Which is going to lead to my next point, which I've stressed several episodes ago. Shortly after offensive coordinator Mike Shurmur came out saying that he thinks Daniel Jones has all the tools to start week 1 as the New York Giants NFL quarterback, I said, okay, if you think that, give him reps with the first team. That's what they're not doing right now. I don't think Daniel Jones is completely getting reps with the first team or against the first team defense. That's what you got to do. You really want to find out where he stands, do that, and preseason's right around the corner. We're in mid-June right now. And then once, preseason's right around the corner. Starts in August. August is going to come like that. It's going to come over everyone's head. You have a month and a half to figure out whether you can give Daniel Jones in preseason legitimate first-team snaps. Make him play the whole goddamn game if you have to. We need to figure it out. What does Eli Manning need to play in preseason for? I think he sat out last preseason because they understood, well, there's no point of playing Eli Manning anyways. How long has Eli Manning been in the NFL? 18 years? I don't think an 18-year quarterback needs to be playing in a preseason game. I think he gets the offense. You get what you get with Eli Manning at this point. Preseason is to figure out and evaluate new talent, additional talent. And that'll be the perfect time. Icing on the cake, cherry on the top. Okay, because first, it started off with Mike Shurmur, their offensive coordinator, thinking that Daniel Jones can start week 1, and now it's the head coach. And folks, for those of you who don't know how big this announcement was, how big that statement is, the head coach is the one that makes the decisions. So I was upset when Mike Shurmur said it because he was an offensive coordinator, and Mike Shurmur can't make decisions. He's a play caller. Pat Shurmur can throw freaking Saquon Barkley as a quarterback. Mike Shurmur has to, make sure that Saquon Barkley can be a successful quarterback. Like, that's sort of how teams are structured in the NFL. While you have coaches who are in charge of calling the offensive plays, defensive plays, the head coach is ultimately responsible for personnel. Who starts? Who's on the bench? Where should players line up? And at which positions? That's the head coach. So now that Pat Shurmur, the head honcho, he's saying that Daniel Jones can start. I mean, come on. Then what are you guys waiting for? Don't beat around the bush. And look, you New York Giants fans know every single interview that Pat Shurmur does, he's very high level. He's very general. He doesn't like to play into the questions of the media. He's always sort of short with his answers, very political. This was the first time I've heard Pat Shurmur actually give some details, not beat around the bush. It's great news, and I'm very, very excited. I mean, man, this is an exciting offseason for New York Giants fans. We have a quarterback battle for the very first time in Eli Manning's career. Whether you're a diehard Eli Manning fan and you love him so much and this is hurting your feelings, you got to throw all that away because this is a storyline. The New York Giants probably should have been on Hard Knocks. Because think about it. Look at all of this stuff that we've done. Traded away Odell Beckham. Have one of the best running backs in the league. Have a very interesting general manager. Right? He's a character. And then having the quarterback competition. Imagine taping that. Taping the players' reactions, the coaches' reactions, the coaches' meetings talking about how well Daniel Jones is. We could have gotten a little bit more information on that. That certainly would have definitely helped me in my podcast to figure out more. That would have gave me even more to talk about. But we would have gotten so much more details. We would have been so deep into this storyline, into this quarterback competition. Because as of right now, we're relying on ESPN and Fox Sports and CBS Sports to tell us what's going on in these practices. But we could have been able to figure out what the coaches actually think. Because HBO would have been right there. But there's a legitimate storyline. There's a legitimate quarterback competition. And look, I won't be upset if Eli Manning starts. Because you know what? To be realistic, Eli Manning will start week 1. I think Daniel Jones will find his way to start this year at some point in the season because I think once we get mathematically eliminated, they'll throw in Daniel Jones to start. But my point is this. You guys have already came out with high praises for this guy. You might as well just throw him in the fire. Let him figure it out. See what he's got. And I'm actually pulling this up. I mean, this is a quote from Evan Ingram. He says, you can kind of see him getting more comfortable. I think he's had a really good offseason. I think he has had a really, really productive offseason. He is on track with the goal to be ready to play day 1. That's also what Pat Shurmur said. So there's a lot of good quotes coming out from him. So Jordan Rand from ESPN stated, so he wrote this article talking about this sort of quarterback competition. And he talked about the fact that even when Daniel Jones at times struggled a little bit, he has shown the capability to adjust and not make those same mistakes again. He's shown, the capability of just understanding, being patient with the offense, being patient with this decision-making, and that's so key for a young quarterback, to be persistent that way, to be patient that way. Yes, I'm sure he'll be accurate. I'm sure he can throw the ball well, but those are also intangibles that you can't teach. So if you're seeing these intangibles as well, I just don't see why and how you couldn't start Daniel Jones week 1. I don't see how it hurts the New York Giants. I think it ends up hurting us in the long run if we don't start Daniel Jones now rather than in a year later, because what happens if we find out a year later that this guy is not the quarterback that we thought he was going to be? So that's my problem with that, and that's my take on that. And the next storyline I wanted to get into was the rookie wide receiver out of Auburn, Darius Slatyon, has been getting first-team reps in OTAs. Pat Shurmur is very, very impressed with Darius Slatyon. Darius Slatyon was a 5th-round draft pick this past season, and it's a very interesting story because Darius Slatyon, even in rookie camp this year, and almost sort of early on in this offseason during the practices, Darius Slatyon has struggled. There have been tapes of him dropping the ball, sort of like giving up on routes as well. But he's made up for it, and he's shown that he can be a legitimate threat and a legitimate offensive starter this year. I mean, if you're getting first-team reps, you're playing with Eli Manning. I mean, he's also playing equally with Daniel Jones just from the tape that I've seen. But if you're getting first-team reps, man, that is a great sign. And if you can get that value from a 5th-round draft pick, then you've hit it on the money. I mean, Gettleman has hit it on the money. If Pat Shurmur legitimately came out saying that he is impressed with Darius Slatyon, and I think we can use Darius Slatyon in a lot of creative ways. I think we'll obviously use him in special teams. And granted, he didn't have the same 40 time as Deshaun Jackson, but he can be our Deshaun Jackson. Maybe this is the guy that's our deep threat. Maybe this is the guy where we use in trips bunches. And, we use him in trip bunch formations. And we confuse the crap out of defenses. We have Golden Tate running a hitch route. Have Shepard running a slant route. And then we have Darius Slatyon running a go route. You know how hard that's going to be to defend? And then not to mention Evan Ingram on the other end of the ball, on the other end of the line, lining up, ready to catch that pass. So this is really, really good news for New York Giants fans because now it looks like maybe our passing game is coming into fruition, and you know what? Maybe we may not miss Odell Beckham this year. Maybe that trade isn't as bad as we thought it was when he first got traded. Maybe we do have legitimate receiving options. And it's so ironic because this Darius Slatyon news came out shortly after my last episode where I sort of raved about Darius Slatyon and talked about the possibility of Darius Slatyon being our wide receiver 3, lining up with Shepard and Golden Tate in that spread offense for Pat Shurmur. So really, really great news. Definitely something that's to write home about, given the fact that he was such a late pick. And if you can find a late pick that can start for you as a rookie, I mean, and that just goes to show Dave Gettleman's ability to draft really well for the New York Giants. In 2 straight drafts, he's done a pretty good job. And granted, I was very critical of that Daniel Jones pick this year and the fact that we got Dexter Lawrence and not a legitimate pass rusher. But other than that, these 2 drafts under Dave Gettleman's New York Giants general manager tenure have been pretty good because we've been able to find mid-round to late-round talent to come in and start immediately. And that's what it's looking like for Darius Slatyon. So really, really happy to hear that because now it's just one less thing to worry about from an offensive perspective. And that's one more weapon for Eli Manning. And you know what? That may be just that one more weapon for Daniel Jones. Especially because that's the wide receiver that Daniel Jones has been working with all offseason in all of these practices. So that would be great to sort of have Daniel Jones and Darius Slatyon start at the same time because I think, they already have that rapport. They already have that camaraderie. They already have that sort of like relationship. They know each other's tendencies based off of practicing together because they're both rookies. They both were practicing in rookie camp. And so to just sort of bring this all together again, we're just talking about Daniel Jones and the possibility of him starting week 1. What better way to make him comfortable and ready starting week 1 to have him start alongside Darius Slatyon as a wide receiver into week 1? I mean, it's almost like the stars are aligning for Daniel Jones to succeed. I think Dave Gettleman and Pat Shurmur have done a pretty decent job in the past 2 years to sort of set up Daniel Jones to have some sort of decent success. I think all the pieces to the puzzle are right there for Daniel Jones to be competitive. And so, again, this is just one of those wait-and-see games, wait-and-see type of moments. But I am all in for letting Daniel Jones taking over Eli's starting quarterback job week 1. And then the next topic to close off this podcast, I want to talk about the big blockbuster NBA trade. The New Orleans Pelicans traded Anthony Davis to the Los Angeles Lakers for Lonzo Ball, Josh Hart, Brandon Ingram, and the 4th overall pick. I am completely distraught at this trade. I cannot believe the Los Angeles Lakers traded their young core, the future of their team, for a win-now mentality that's not guaranteed to work. Okay, you trade a good point guard in Lonzo Ball, a transcending player in Brandon Ingram. Josh Hart was a great role player for the Los Angeles Lakers team, and you're trading away the 4th overall pick. You're trading literally youth for what? A small window of success that's not necessarily guaranteed. I mean, think about it. The only reason why they traded for Anthony Davis is to win a championship. Anything less of a championship is a failure. So they traded away their future in hopes of winning a championship, but it isn't guaranteed. Who knows how this is going to play out? Remember, a couple of weeks ago, I released an episode about how I stopped liking the NBA, how the NBA has gotten boring because of these super teams. And in doing so, I explained why trading this core, those same core pieces, for Anthony Davis would be a big mistake. And, behold, Jeannie Buss trades those same pieces for Anthony Davis. Such a big mistake, and mark my words, the Los Angeles Lakers will not win a championship because of this trade. What I will guarantee is that the Pelicans will be in contention for an NBA championship within 2 to 3 years. You have a transcending point guard with Lonzo Ball, a transcending wing player, Brandon Ingram, a great role player with Josh Hart. We all know that the Pelicans are going to draft Zion Williams with the number 1 overall pick. And then they also got the 4th overall pick as a result of that trade. So now they have the potential to get another wing player, possibly R.J. Barrett. So now they have this core young nucleus of studs, a deep backcourt, and a deep set of wing players. Not to mention they have Drew Holiday, who is a great veteran point guard presence for Lonzo Ball. That's exactly who Lonzo Ball needed. And I know that Rajon Rondo was on the Los Angeles Lakers, and he was playing with Lonzo Ball. But they brought in Rajon Rondo to start. I know for a fact that when Lonzo Ball gets acclimated to the Pelicans' offense, Lonzo Ball will take over that offense. Drew Holiday will be that veteran presence that Lonzo Ball needed. In a couple of years, this team is going to be primed to win an NBA championship. But I don't think the Los Angeles Lakers will win a championship as a result of this trade. Trading young core talent is not a recipe for sustainability. NBA teams need to follow similar recipes like the NFL, where the NFL build through the draft and then certain methodical free agent signings to address weaknesses. And the NBA has shown that that's possible, that you could do that. Look at the Denver Nuggets. Look at the Portland Trailblazers. And obviously the key example is the Golden State Warriors. Look at the Milwaukee Bucks. And in a way, you can even say the Toronto Raptors. I mean, and they just won a championship. I mean, the NBA, there are some teams that are trying to use that method. Building organically. LeBron James will not win a championship with Anthony Davis. We've seen LeBron James play with other premier power forwards Chris Bosh, Kevin Love, those two guys were walking double-doubles. And I'm not talking about 10, 15 points and 10, 15 rebounds. No, I'm talking about 20 to 25 points, 15 to 20 rebounds on any given night. The second they team up with LeBron, they become afterthoughts. Their production diminishes. Everyone ends up thinking that these players fell off. No, they didn't fall off. LeBron James just doesn't know how to use and acclimate big men into the offense. And then there was a rumor out there that Jimmy Butler is going to sign with the Los Angeles Lakers once free agency opens up. So with all that in consideration, how is Anthony Davis going to get his touches? What type of offense are you going to create to make sure that Anthony Davis is effective and is doing the things that you would have hoped he would accomplish when you did this trade? Because you know what? This trade's a failure if he ends up putting up Kevin Love numbers when Kevin Love was with LeBron James. This trade's a failure if Anthony Davis puts up Chris Bosh numbers when Chris Bosh was with Dwayne Wade and LeBron James. This was a very, very bad trade. And I don't think the Los Angeles Lakers will win a championship. I think they'll make it to the playoffs. Look, you have LeBron James and Anthony Davis. You should make it to the playoffs. But now this team's not going to be that deep enough. And where's their three-point shooter now? You don't have any three-point shooters. I mean, this team it's stacked. Their starting lineup's going to be stacked, but like for all the wrong reasons. So you're going to have Rajon Rondo, possibly Jimmy Butler, LeBron James, Kyle Kuzma is probably going to play the 4, and then Anthony Davis at center. How are you going to distribute the ball? Who gets the ball in which situations? Kyle Kuzma was a transcending player. And now you're going to bring in Anthony Davis and Jimmy Butler? Kyle Kuzma is going to be an afterthought. He's probably going to barely hit 10 points a game. You're ruining young talent by doing this. And I get it. It's LA. It's LeBron. You want to win now. I don't think you can win now. You may have a decent chance next year because Durant's going to be away from the Warriors. Klay Thompson's going to be probably out for the most of next year, if not the whole year. So the Warriors won't be in contention for a championship probably because of those injuries. But who knows? You still have the Houston Rockets. I don't understand it. I'm so against trading young core talent. And I've said this before. The NFL would never, ever do this. Teams like the Patriots would never do this. Teams like the Patriots are actually, sort of the opposite. They like to get, they don't mind trading good veteran players for some additional draft picks, or they don't mind, sort of getting these low-key players because they know that they can fit them in their system. They know that they're still young and they can still develop within the right system. With the NBA, it's just nonsense. It's unbelievable. I guarantee you the Lakers do not win a championship as a result of this trade. The Pelicans have a better chance to do so. And guys, that's a wrap. That's episode 11 of Unsportsmanlike Conduct. Thanks for tuning in. Again, please make sure you subscribe. Thanks for all the love. Peace out. Until next time.
The podcast you just heard was made using Anchor. Ever thought about making your own podcast? Anchor makes it really easy for anyone to get started. It's a one-stop shop for recording, hosting, and distributing podcasts. Best of all, it's 100% free. Sign up now at anchor.fm/new. That's anchor.fm/new to get started.